The Assassin. You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest. You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest.
What up, y'all? You're listening to Sports Talk with Tropp, and I'm your host, Katie Tropp. Who in their right mind heckles Mike Tyson? Real talk. Who in their right mind sees Mike Tyson and on a plane decides, I'm going to heckle Mike Tyson? That motherfucker must not have seen some Mike Tyson fights, because if you've seen Mike Tyson fights, Mike Tyson's by far one of my favorite boxers of all time. I love heavyweight boxers. My favorite boxer of all time is George Foreman. Love Foreman. Great boxer. But Mike Tyson, man, he would turn, like, when he punches somebody, he makes that shit look like your head's going to explode like a fucking piñata. So, to this idiot who got assaulted by Mike Tyson on the plane yesterday, man, you stupid as fuck. But I guess you got a cool autograph on your face for that shit. But damn, I saw that. I'm like, who in their right mind? Like, this is just advice, I feel like, to anybody. Don't fuck with a boxer or a UFC fighter, because their profession is beating the shit out of people. Even if they're the shittiest boxer and UFC fighter, you might not want to challenge them because they have the tools. They know how to knock a motherfucker out. They also know how to take punches as well. So you may not want to fuck with a boxer or a UFC fighter. Just saying. But you especially don't want to fuck with Mike Tyson, because that dude, one of the greatest of all time. But anyways, let's talk some sports. Let's start off with these NBA finals, NBA playoffs that we got going on right now. Man, we have had some great games. We've had a few blowouts, of course, but we have had some great games, and pretty much there's only 2 runaway series at this current point in time. But the rest are pretty close. And actually, there's probably 3 runaway series at this current point in time. But yeah, we've got some great matchups going on throughout this entire week. So far, the first round has been great. So let's go ahead and start it off with the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Toronto Raptor series. In Game 2, Philadelphia completely annihilated Toronto, 112-97. The game actually did start out kind of close. But then the 76ers just ran away with it. Joel Embiid ended up with 31 points and 11 rebounds. So he had a double-double. And then in Game 3, man, in Game 3, Philadelphia ended up winning 104-101. And it was a back-and-forth battle, especially at the end there. But big man Joel Embiid hits the game-winning 3 at the end of the game to just walk it off. That's why you love basketball. To keep it real with you, when you see the game-winning shot, no matter who gets that game-winning shot, you see that, it's just an amazing moment. And it was really hilarious because it was in Toronto. So if you looked at the crowd on any of the playbacks, it's just like they're screaming, they're all excited, and you see Embiid step back for the 3, and you're thinking to yourself, there's no way he's going to make this 3, and it just sinks right in, and like the entire crowd is just dead. So right now, Philly's got a 3-0 series lead. And I think they're going to sweep this one pretty easily. I mean, Toronto, really the only game so far that Toronto's even kept it close was Game 3. And I feel like that 3 that Embiid hit was basically the dagger for the series. Even if Toronto gets one win, whoop-de-doo for them. But they're down 3-0, so I think Philly in Game 4 is going to close that shit out this weekend. And then we also have the Atlanta Hawks versus the Miami Heat. So far, this has been Heat domination completely. I mean, in Game 2, Miami, they ended up winning 115-105, and it was just absolute domination. You know what? Jimmy Butler he's just balling uncontrollably, too. I've actually always been a big Jimmy Butler fan. I remember when there was rumors that he may sign with the Lakers. I was so excited for that, just because I think he would fit perfect on the Lakers. Even currently right now, I would love to see Jimmy Butler as a Laker. But unfortunately, he plays for the Miami Heat, and they're getting the best out of Jimmy Butler right now. He had a great game 2. He had a great game 1, and right now Miami's got the 2-0 lead in that series. And Atlanta they have no firepower. Like, they just look like all they have is Trae Young, and beyond him, they ain't got shit going on. So I expect Miami to probably close this one out in 4 as well. Then one of the best series that we've got going on right now is the Brooklyn Nets versus the Boston Celtics. Brooklyn's kept it close in both matchups. The last matchup in game 2, Boston did end up winning 114-107. And it was close for the most part. But then Boston really started to step away, especially because in the fourth quarter, it's really shocking. Kevin Durant really has not had a good series at all so far. And, KD is not known for shying away when it comes to the playoffs. But the thing about the Boston Celtics is they play amazing defense. And when you watch it, they're basically bodying him. They just get 2 of their big defenders on him and are just jostling him back and forth. And it's just like they basically sandwich him and are just like pushing him back and forth as best they can, and he's just not getting open. And then when he does get open or happens to try and take a shot, it just isn't going in, and he just was ice cold in game 2. And so right now, Boston's rolling with a 2-0 series lead. I don't expect it to stay that way. I do expect Brooklyn to at least get 1 or 2 wins in this series, but maybe a couple more just because they are a good team. But Boston, their defense is something else right now, and they're just taking it to Boston. They're taking it to Brooklyn. Brooklyn is playing great, and they're actually getting the lead a lot of the times, and these games are going back and forth. But Boston's just deep and play great defense. So I think Boston's, I took them to start in this series. And I wouldn't be shocked if it ended up being a sweep, but I think Brooklyn's got enough firepower to keep it going. And then the final matchup in the first round for the Eastern Conference is the Chicago Bulls versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Chicago actually got the best of Milwaukee in game 2. Chicago walked away with the win 114-110. And this series is tied right now at 1-1. So the Bucks right now are actually dealing with some injuries, and Chicago's actually getting healthier. And DeRozan, man, he went off. And it wasn't just him either. Actually Alex Caruso, who I loved when he was a Laker. Actually, he was when the Lakers won in 2020, he was one of the big reasons why we played so well in the playoffs and in the finals, because he's a scrappy dude. He loves to get in the paint. He's happy to just jump up there and try and get the rebounds. And he's just such a scrappy player. And he just plays a great role. And he's doing that with Chicago right now, especially in game 2. I was watching at the end and I'm like, man, Caruso, he's still that dude. And it sucks that we let him go because, he's succeeding, as a lot of ex-Lakers have been succeeding at this past season since they left the Lakers, which pisses me the fuck off. But hey, my loser Lakers aren't in it, so we don't need to talk about them. But Chicago, they really took it to the Bucks. And so now it's tied 1-1 going into Chicago for the weekend, the rest of the weekend. It's still a good matchup, and I still got the Bucks. I mean, they're still a good team, and they still have Giannis, so I still have the Bucks taking this. But so far, this is a very interesting series between the two of them. Now moving over to the Western Conference, the Utah Jazz versus the Dallas Mavericks series is actually quite surprising to me. When Luka went down, I kind of assumed that Dallas, they'd play well, but I didn't think they'd get the wins. And right now, they're playing great. They won the last 2 games in this series. They won game 2, 110-104, and then they won last night's game 3, 126-118, and now they're up 2-1 in this series. And they're actually looking really solid without Luka. So, Dallas might consider sitting him for one more game. I kind of feel like if he can play, he's going to want to play. That just seems to be the type of player he is, especially because this is the playoffs. Who wants to sit when it's the playoffs? Unless you're Ben Simmons, of course. I think if they sit him for one more game, they'll actually be fine, because even if Utah gets the next win, the series would be tied, and then you could just have Luka come in when the series is tied and hope for the best. But I mean, overall, Dallas has been playing playing good and maintaining without Luka. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And it's just pathetic for the Jazz because, I did mention with the Jazz, I didn't believe in them because they don't play that great of team ball. There's just something about them where they have these great players because they do. They have great players. Donovan Mitchell, great player. Rudy Gobert, one of the best centers in the league. But they just don't. There's just something about this team that doesn't mesh well. And Dallas has been getting the best of them these last two games. Actually, even in game one, that Dallas took it to them all the way to the end of the game. So Utah is just kind of proven that they're really not legit. And I still have Dallas winning this series, especially now that they're playing well without Luka. They get Luka back, and they're going to probably close out the series in the next two games. Then moving on to one of the blowouts is Denver Nuggets versus Golden State Warriors. I'm not sure if Denver realizes that the playoffs began because Game 2, Golden State won 126-106. And then Game 3, they won 118-113. And so Golden State's up right now 3-0 on the series. Denver they don't have anything beyond Jokic. And really all Golden State has to do is put the pressure on him. And nobody has been able to step up when the pressure's on. So Golden State, but also you really got to watch out for Golden State. What I've always respected about Golden State, especially since they drafted Steph Curry, is like they've really focused on building the team through the draft. And while, yes, they did, pick up Kevin Durant in free agency those years when they were a dynasty, they still are that team that knows how to draft well. And, you got Jordan Poole, who's really had such a spectacular season. And he's just another dude who they drafted, and he's just been working his way up, and he's been filling a spectacular role. And I really, with the injury to Devin Booker and on the Phoenix Suns, if I'm the Suns, you really got to be wary of the Golden State Warriors. Honestly, even in the Eastern Conference, you got to be wary of the Golden State Warriors if you're facing them because they've got the experience. They're getting healthy, and Klay Thompson just had his best game of the season last night. So if Klay Thompson's heating up, Steph Curry's heating up, Draymond Green is playing excellent basketball right now, and then you got Jordan Poole, this rookie just stepping in and playing solid basketball. Y'all watch out for the Golden State Warriors. They are hot, they're on fire, and they're bodying this Denver Nuggets team currently. Then moving on to the Minnesota Timberwolves versus Memphis Grizzlies series. Game 2, Memphis dominated, 124-96. They came right back and were like, that embarrassment we had in Game 1, we're coming back and we're going to cram it down your throat. And Minnesota was dominated from start to finish in that one. Then in Game 3, Memphis won 104-95. Once again, just complete dominance. Actually, it wasn't complete dominance to begin with. Actually, Minnesota, they looked like they were running away with this game. And then all of a sudden in the second half, Memphis went on a 21-0 run and ended up just taking over this game. And as soon as they got the lead back, it was over. And Memphis now has a 2-1 series lead. And I wouldn't be shocked if Memphis is able to close this series out in the next two games because, Minnesota, while they showed heart in Game 1, I don't think they have enough to compete with Memphis in a complete series. They might get one more win, and that's about all I think they have in them. But I kind of feel like last night's 21-0 run was really demoralizing to this team. And then the final matchup is the New Orleans Pelicans versus the Phoenix Suns. As I mentioned, Devin Booker, he's injured, and he's got a hamstring injury, and he's out indefinitely. So we don't know if he's going to be out 1 game, 2 games. I believe I read it might be 1 to 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, but still, that's a big deal. While they were able to overcome the Chris Paul injury in the regular season, Devin Booker's a different animal. I think they're both great players, but I think the loss of Devin Booker is a big deal. In this series, it might not be, although the Pelicans did get the win in Game 2, 125-114, and the series is tied at 1 right now. I still think the Suns will end up winning the series, but it's going to be difficult without Booker. This one could actually now probably go 6 or 7 games because Booker is a big deal to this team, and so we'll see what happens. I still have the Suns winning this series. But, the Pelicans, speaking of ex-Lakers, Brandon Ingram, he went off in game 2. And I'm happy for him because I actually was always a Brandon Ingram fan. And when we traded him, I mean, obviously we had to give up something when we traded for Anthony Davis. But I really actually liked Ingram a lot, and it's nice to see him flourish in New Orleans and kind of get his due because he's a great player. He had a spectacular game, and when you show up in the playoffs, that's the best thing you can do. So right now the series is tied, and we'll see what happens with the weekend, with the rest of the games this weekend. And then actually tonight's games, we've got on the docket tonight, we've got the Miami Heat versus the Atlanta Hawks, Milwaukee Bucks versus Chicago Bulls, and then the Phoenix Suns versus New Orleans Pelicans. And just another random NBA news. Marcus Smart ended up winning the Defensive Player of the Year award. Like I said, Boston plays great defense, and so that Marcus Smart winning the Defensive Player of the Year only makes sense. Marcus Smart has been one of the best defenders in the league, basically since he hit the league. Like he's a very like quiet player. Not a lot of people talk about him. If you're just a casual basketball fan, you probably don't even know who this dude is. But I've really loved watching this dude's career, especially as a defender. And so it's awesome to see him get his due in becoming the Defensive Player of the Year. And then the last bit of NBA news, just about an hour ago, Charlotte Hornets ended up firing their coach. Coach Borrego, and so we'll see what happens with Charlotte. They're a good young up and coming team. It was probably about time to be fired. The guy's been the coach for 4 years. They haven't really had any success, so you kind of have to say bye. And they got, like I said, they've got a young squad, especially with LaMelo Ball. He's one of the future stars of the league. That's for damn sure. So you don't really want to waste his key years. And so we'll see what happens in Charlotte. Now, a couple of things happened in baseball this week. Freddie Freeman, he got his first home run of the season off of his old team, the Atlanta Braves. And the Dodgers are rolling right now, unlike my San Francisco Giants, who this week, Max Scherzer of the New York Mets had 10 strikeouts versus the Giants, and actually the Giants have had a very down week. It's going to be shocking if they make my Tropp 10 power rankings this week on Monday, because this week has not been good for them. They got their asses smashed by the Mets, and then they lost last night to the Padres. So we'll see if they can bounce back. They've had a couple injuries as well, but they have not had a good week. And then also Shohei Ohtani. He was a batter and a pitcher in a game against the Astros. I think it was I want to say it was like maybe Wednesday, Tuesday. And when he pitched, he had 6 scoreless innings and 12 strikeouts. And when he hit, went 2 for 4 with a double, 2 RBIs, a walk, and a run scored. So also that's the first time in history that somebody has, not first time in history, but first time since I believe it was 1900, when a player in baseball has pitched and hit in the same game. So that's pretty crazy. And not only is it crazy, but he did well at both of them. So that like I said before, I'm a huge fan of his. I just think it's awesome to see somebody playing the way he plays. And hey, he's just having a great start to the season so far. And then in NFL news, it's crazy because what I love about the NFL is even when it's the off season, there's always something to talk about with them. And so far since, the end of the Super Bowl, there's been, tons of movement between free agency and trades. And now we've got the draft coming up next week. But now the drama is getting real between Deebo Samuel and the San Francisco 49ers. He has officially requested a trade. I'm not really sure what the deal is. He was working out a contract extension with the Niners. They apparently offered him a pretty decent extension, but he still wants to be traded. I will say, hey, Dallas Cowboys would love to see him wearing a Dallas Cowboys star. I think he would be a beautiful addition to the team, but I don't know what they're doing, but that would be, I approve Deebo Samuel, just saying. But yeah, that's going to be a big loss for the 49ers if they end up trading him. It might be just one of those things where it's going to happen. It kind of feels like it's going to happen. But yeah, I think the Niners are screwed in that regard, especially with Trey Lance. It's looking like he is going to be the QB1 this season. And if they don't have Deebo Samuel, they are missing a huge piece of that offense. They lost Raheem Mostert. He went and signed with the Dolphins. And then you got George Kittle still there, but he's turned injury prone. So, and then you got Brandon Ayuk, who's not, he's a good receiver, but I don't think he's a number one receiver, or at least he hasn't proven so yet. But, so we'll see what happens with the Deebo Samuel thing here, but it's very interesting, that, this is happening. And honestly, if he does end up getting traded, it's probably going to be this week, just because, the draft is coming up on Thursday. And so somebody's probably going to want to make a move. And I'm sure lots of teams are looking into getting Deebo Samuel because he is a hell of a receiver. All right. And so in honor of Mike Tyson beating the crap out of some idiot heckling him on an airplane, I decided this would be a perfect opportunity to do another Tropp 5 list. And I'm going to do the Tropp 5 Mike Tyson knockouts. Because like I said, if you didn't get to see Mike, now, first of all, Mike Tyson, I missed some of his career because I was born in 85 and he started boxing, I believe, in 86. So I caught like the tail end of his career, which wasn't the best, but it also wasn't the worst. But I have watched all the great boxing matches of his. And it just, on ESPN Classic or just whatever. I love to watch boxing. It's just one of the... It's the ultimate sport of attrition to me, like with both UFC and boxing, just to watch people absolutely get annihilated and still be able to stand up and then come back and win. It's just crazy to watch fighters. I have great respect for all fighters, even if you didn't like win a lot, if you didn't make it big or whatever. I just have an extreme amount of respect for both boxers and UFC fighters, because that's just it's just crazy to watch these people, just the way they're able to overcome everything that they do and take all these hits, and in UFC, be grappling the hell out of each other, and it's just nuts to watch. But with Mike Tyson, he is my second favorite boxer of all time. Watching him, like I said at the beginning of the show, when he would punch you, it was crazy. When he would knock you out, your head just exploded like a piñata. And he also had this like bob and weave where like he would just totally squat down, and you knew it was coming, that he would just squat down and get below you, and then he'd just knock you out. But it's just difficult to get it, because you're just like, oh my God, is he going to really knock you out? And I mean, that's what Mike Tyson was known for, knocking people out. His record is 50-6. And out of those 50 wins, 44 of them were knockouts. So that just goes to show what kind of a boxer he was. He was the heavyweight champ from 1987 to 1990. And he was just that dude. Like, he was just that dude for real. And so I just felt like this would be the perfect opportunity to name his Tropp 5 knockouts, because it was actually hard to whittle it down to 5, to be quite honest, because there are so many insane knockouts and just so many insane fights that he had that it was hard to whittle down. But I was able to do so. And so let's go ahead and start off with number 5 on my Tropp 5 Mike Tyson knockouts. Versus Eddie Richardson on November 13th, 1985. He knocked out Eddie Richardson, and this was one of his first fights ever. I believe it might have been his first fight ever. I could be wrong. I was only a few months old at this point in time, so I'm sorry if I don't remember everything exactly as the way it was. But he did knock out Richardson in 1 minute and 17 seconds in the first round. Now, the thing about Richardson is how like tall he was compared to Mike Tyson. And that was actually the theme. Like when you watch Mike Tyson's career, he knocked out dudes who were like bigger than him, and not like muscular bigger. I mean like taller. And so they'd have a little bit more of a reach to them. But like Richardson, for example, not only did he knock him out, but Richardson's ass flies across the ring and is knocked out. And a direct quote from Eddie Richardson. Somebody asked him, When was the last, have you ever been hit that hard? And his response was, yeah, about a year ago, I was hit by a truck. So that just goes to show how hard he was hit by Mike Tyson. And that was the start of Mike Tyson's career right there, and him knocking you the fuck out. So then number 4 on my top 5 Mike Tyson knockouts is against Trevor Berbick, November 22nd, 1986. He knocked him out in 2 minutes and 35 at the 2-minute 35 second mark in round 2. He actually ended up becoming the youngest heavyweight champ. Berbick, I believe, was undefeated going into this match. Regardless, he was a really good boxer. And he took some hits too. He's just getting pummeled. And finally, referee Mills Lane. And if you're from Nevada, like I'm from Reno, Mills Lane was the dude in Nevada. He used to ref so many boxing matches in the day. Hell, he was even on, if you remember on MTV, they had Celebrity Deathmatch. He did the voice of Mills Lane on Celebrity Deathmatch, and he was the ref on that as well. So it was cool to actually, when I was rewatching some of these highlights, I'm like, oh shit, there's Mills Lane. And he had to stop this fight because Berbick could not, he was knocked the fuck out, basically. So that's number 4. Number 3 on my top 5 greatest Mike Tyson knockouts, Larry Holmes. On January 22nd, 1988. Now, Larry Holmes is a legendary boxer, but at this time, he was basically washed up. He was just coming back. The money was good at the time. Don King was apparently offering him a lot of money to take this fight, and he did end up taking this fight. I will say it was overall a good fight. Holmes, he just kept it going he didn't get knocked out until round 4. But basically, once round 4 happened, he was getting gassed. And then not only was he getting gassed, but Mike Tyson was delivering the blows. Now, once again, you got to give it up to Larry Holmes because he was taking some hits before he got knocked out. And to see him get back up, and you're like, damn, you're about to take some more hits from this young-ass motherfucker who's on the come-up right now and who's knocking everybody out. But basically on the last little stretch there were 3 knockdowns, and then basically Tyson gets him in the corner and just starts pummeling the fuck out of him, and then boom, hits him. He's on the ground, knocked the fuck out. And as Mike Tyson kind of called that his revenge for one of his favorite boxers, Muhammad Ali. And then so number 2 on my top 5 greatest Mike Tyson knockouts against Pinkland Thomas. This was on May 30th, 1987. This went 6 rounds. It was actually kind of, I guess you would call it a boring fight. But man, there was in the round 6 before Tyson knocks him out. Pinkland Thomas is another dude who was taking some insane hits from Mike Tyson. And you're just like, how is this guy standing? How the hell is this guy standing? Right before Tyson knocks him out, this dude takes a 15-punch combo right to the freaking face like this whole time. And Tyson, man, like, he's known for the knockout, but he's got some great skill. And this 15-punch combo is one of the most impressive things I've seen in boxing. It's always fun to me when I'm watching boxing and you just see somebody using all these combos and just boom, 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 boom. That's kind of what I felt about this knockout here. And when he did that 15-punch combo, boom, 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 and then he knocks him out. Oh, good Lord. It's beautiful to watch. Just fucking beautiful to watch. Now, number 1. My number 1. Top 5 Mike Tyson greatest knockout of all time. Now, I have to tell you, I remember the first time I saw this. It's Michael Spinks, June 27th, 1988. Now, obviously, I was not old enough to remember this, but I remember watching this because I don't know if y'all remember that horrible time when COVID first started in 2020, and there was no sports on. So ESPN was just struggling to find anything to put on their channel. And there was one weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, where they just put boxing on from start to finish all day long. And so I ended up watching a bunch of George Foreman fights, a bunch of Muhammad Ali fights. Hell, I even watched a Muhammad Ali fight when he was Cassius Clay. I think it was from like 1958. It was in black and white. It was crazy. It was so much fun to watch. And man, if you have not watched Muhammad Ali fight, do it. Do yourself a favor and watch Muhammad Ali fight. If anybody ever tries to argue with you that he's not the greatest boxer of all time, watch him fight. I mean, the greatest fight of all time, in my opinion, is the Rumble in the Jungle between him and George Foreman. And that was actually one of the first fights that I watched during this little ESPN marathon of boxing events. It was the first one, was the Rumble in the Jungle. And, you know, I mentioned I'm a huge George Foreman fan. And so this was between George Foreman and Muhammad Ali. And as I'm watching this, because I already know who's going to win, I already know George Foreman loses. I know Muhammad Ali wins. But like, as I'm watching it, I'm like, how does Foreman lose this? Because he is beating the hell out of Muhammad Ali. But Muhammad Ali just made this insane comeback and knocked George Foreman the fuck out. It is, if you want to watch one of the greatest boxing matches ever, if you can find it, I'm pretty sure it's on ESPN Plus. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube somewhere. But you need to watch the whole thing too. You can't watch like a highlight thing. You need to watch the entire thing. It is the greatest fight, in my opinion. Just absolutely great. But anyways, back to this day on ESPN, you know, they, like I said, they did like George Foreman fights, Muhammad Ali fights, and then, of course, they did Tyson. And most of the Tyson ones were short and sweet because he knocked everybody the fuck out. And I remember when this one started, I was like, I'm watching it, and I'm like 20 minutes into it, and it's only going to be 30 minutes. So I'm like, what's going on here? How quick is this fight? So it starts. Oh my God. Okay, so Michael Spinks coming into this fight is 31-0. So he ain't no joke. Just know that. So basically, Mike Tyson walks up to this motherfucker and knocks him out in 90 seconds. You know, it starts off and they're going back and forth a little bit, and then they kind of like they're kind of like hugging each other a bit, and then they separate. And then Mike Tyson basically just walks up to him, takes a couple more punches, and boom, knocks him out. And as I'm watching this, I will never forget it because I'd never seen this before until I watched it on ESPN during COVID. I'm just watching it because I'm like, God, this has to be so short. And when he just walks up to him and knocks him out, my mouth was agape. Like I looked like Macaulay Culkin on the face of the Home Alone cover. Like I just was so blown away that somebody could knock a motherfucker out like that. And I still to this day, it sticks in my head. If I'm ever going to just like want to watch a quick fight, this one versus Mike Tyson versus Michael Spinks. Oh, another spectacular fight. Just to see a dude knock a motherfucker cold, clean, so quick in 90 seconds. It's still to this day one of the 6th shortest fights of all time. Mike Tyson literally only threw 10 punches in this fight. So yeah, if you get the chance, you can find that on YouTube for sure because it's short and sweet. But yeah, take a look at this Mike Tyson versus Michael Spinks fight. One of the greatest knockouts of all time, and it's number 1 on my list. So yeah, if you get the time, you should check out not only these but just any. Mike Tyson was the shit. Like I said, you check him out, check out Muhammad Ali, check out George Foreman. There are so many great boxers throughout the history of time, but man, those 3, love them. And that's my top 5 of Mike Tyson knockouts. And hey, since we're talking boxing right now, there actually is a pretty decent boxing match coming up this weekend. Tyson Fury versus Dylan White. Tyson Fury, he's undefeated. I think he's 33-0 if I recall. But they're going to be fighting Wembley Arena this weekend. And Dylan White's basically an up-and-comer, but, Tyson Fury actually has a great amount of respect for him. He's actually said very nice and complimentary things towards Dylan White. I believe they're actually ex-training mates, if I recall. So both of them have respect for each other, and should be a good fight. Fury's a great heavyweight fighter. I know he's coming. His career seems to be coming to a close. I don't know if this is going to be his last one or one of his last ones. But like I said, Dylan White's on the come up, so this would be a huge win for him if he ends up getting it. But Fury is actually heavily favored in this one. He's also from London, so since he's in Wembley, then he's probably, he should be favored. And, you know, like I said, Fury's one of the best of all time, so how is he not favored? But it would be cool to see if Dylan White's able to make a name for himself this weekend. Yeah, enjoy that boxing there, and enjoy the NBA playoffs, because they are great right now. Really enjoying what I'm seeing with the basketball this playoff season right now. So y'all have a good weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday.